Hey everyone, it's Grow with Joe here. Hoping you're having a great Monday. Here to give you another lesson from my book, More You Know, More You Grow. But before we start that, I just have to get the Facebook Live going. So hold on just for a second. Hopefully it goes this time around. I don't know, for some reason the internet's been slow for the last couple of days, but hopefully we get this going. If it doesn't work this time, then I'm just going to post this on Facebook, on YouTube, and do it another day. So this is not working, but hey, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to download this file and then upload it to Facebook later on and to YouTube. So when things don't work out, you just adapt and overcome. So just a little update about myself. I'm currently in Mexico City. I've been here for about a month now. Before that, I was in San Miguel de Allende for 3 weeks visiting cousin. Both beautiful places. Definitely go check them out. Yesterday, I went to the Frida Blue House Museum. That was pretty cool. See like where they lived and everything. Then realized that was his name, Leon Trotsky or Trotsky from Russia. He lived in that house while he was living in exile from Russia. So that was pretty interesting. Like this is where he was just staying. But yeah, Spanish is improving a little bit every single day. I'm working really hard on the Grow with Joe business. If you're not familiar with Grow with Joe, it's a company that combines self-development coaching with financial planning for Latino professionals. So I've been busy working on that. Next month, I'm supposed to go to Panama for some time to go for my MBA and then go to Costa Rica. So I'm excited. Never been to those two countries. So I got a pretty good life ahead of me. Also been busy working on the podcast. I've released 136 episodes, which is kind of crazy to think I've released one every single day. And my podcast is based on, I created my podcast based on this book. So if you don't know, like my whole reasoning for creating More You Know, More You Grow is like about 5 years ago, I started reading a lot of different books, started listening to a lot of different podcasts, and I was getting all this valuable information. I was like, wow, I should share this with other people because like I'm getting these like new things that gives me a new perspective on life. And now I'm living in Mexico. I've created my own financial planning business. So, and I feel like I wouldn't have been able to done all these amazing things if it wasn't for learning and just being a lifetime student, lifelong student. And so the podcast is called Your Daily Cup of Joe. It gives you like the same length as this, as these videos, just to help you grow yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And so today's lesson is going to be is based on the chapter in this book, The Stronger Frame Will Dissolve the Weaker Frame. And this is an important lesson to know because anything you want to accomplish in your life, you got to have a stronger frame. So if you're going against somebody with a strong frame and you have a weaker frame, that person's strong frame is more likely to dissolve your weaker frame. And you see this in all types of relationships. You can see them in relationships with couples. You can see these relationships with kids. I've seen kids who walked all over their parents because those kids had a much stronger frame than their parents. And the parents didn't really know how to say no to them or how to deal with that conflict. And so the kid's stronger frame dissolved the kid's stronger frame dissolved that parent's weaker frame, and whoever has a stronger frame is going to win out in that situation. So like if the kid wanted candy for dinner and just like started crying and just like the parent didn't want to deal with it or know how to deal with it, so then they get the candy to the kid. Hey, that kid had a stronger frame and the parent had the weaker frame. And this is what you have to do with in relationships and like at your career and anything else. Like if you really want to advocate for yourself, you have to have a stronger frame. I was listening to this podcast with James Altucher. He was interviewing this guy that had this mishap with his surgery where he had a lot of internal bleeding because one of the stitches like fell out and everything. And this guy was like yelling at the nurse, and the nurse couldn't like was like not doing showing urgency like he wanted to. And then he was like kind of being passive about it. And yeah, and so the nurse had the stronger frame in that situation, and then the patient, the author, the guest, he didn't have the stronger frame, and he just talks about like, hey, yeah, if you want to accomplish things or get people to do stuff, you got to have a stronger frame, and a stronger frame can mean different things. It could just be like, hey, you show more urgency in the situation, like, hey, take care of me. This is wrong. We have to take care of this right now, and that will usually kickstart the other person into like doing what you need them to do in that emergency. It could also just be like you have a more positive attitude. So I like to have a positive attitude myself. There's times where I get negative and everything else, but like I try to like, hey, smile, try to like be a good be a good person, try to not be like, oh, everything sucks type of thing. Like, hey, let me have a stronger positive attitude, because I know if I have a strong positive attitude, then I'm going to be able to accomplish a lot more things. I don't think I could be doing these videos if I had a poor attitude about my life in general. Be like, hey, why am I doing these things? It's not even worth it. And so when I come across somebody else that has a negative attitude, one, I try to avoid that person and be like, hey, this is not working out. I got to get away from it. Or just like, hopefully my positive attitude or just my attitude in general, like, hey, we got to get this done. We shouldn't even focus on this thing. We got to keep it moving. And just like your strong frame in that area, being positive or being like, hey, let's take action. Like, let's not even dwell. Let's go. If the other person had a stronger frame than you, then what's going to happen is then you're going to start dwelling, and then you're going to start feeling demotivated type of thing. And so whatever situation you're in, like in negotiations or anything else, you have to have a stronger frame. Like if you're going in a car dealership and you're like, hey, it needs to be this price, I need this interest rate, I'm not budging. Once you start to budge or whatever, then that's when the other person has a stronger frame and they're more likely to give what you want. So you just have to be confident in yourself and be like, hey, it's going to be this way. I don't want anything else. A really good book on how to maintain a stronger frame in negotiations is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. I will highly recommend that you watch that video. I will read that book because I learned a lot of great tips about like, hey, next time I go to the car dealer and be like, hey, I need to buy a car, I know exactly what I need to do and when to go. The key thing is you go on the last of the month. That's because that's when they have to hit their quotas and everything. I'm more likely to give you a deal. So if you're in a relationship or whatever, and just like, hey, and you're reasonable about it, don't be irrational about things. But you generally want to have a stronger frame. If you have the stronger frame, what is going to happen is you're more likely to get what you want, and just have a better general attitude. You're just going to have a better attitude in general. So if you're in work and there's like edges and type of thing, you got to know when you have power. If you're like an employee and you're like, hey, I deserve a raise, boom, 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 I'm not going to do anything else. Another person will be like, yep, you can go, we can find somebody else type of thing. So you got to understand like where do you have power and where you don't have power and type of things as well. Like when it comes to your kids have to live under your roof. They have to do so like, and you could do things that have a stronger frame that can convince them or persuade them to do the right thing. And that's generally like how you become successful in life and get what more whatever you want. Like the more confident you are, the more sure about your situation, the more likely people are gonna follow your lead. Like I remember being in DC and like going getting into these events, and I got into these events because I had the confidence, like, hey, my name is this, I'm on the list. Oh, hey, can I get it or whatever? You got just got to be confident in those situations. Like I remember my first year in DC, like I really noticed this lesson is I was working at this one conference and they had all these important speakers and this one speaker didn't have this ticket or whatever. She was the president of this one big company and she literally like steamrolled me over because she was so confident. She's like, hey, I'm supposed to be in here, blah, blah, blah. You gotta let me in. And I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know who's supposed to be in here. And she just walked in. I'm like, huh, that was interesting. Now thinking back on it, like she had a strong frame. She knew what she was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, okay, just go because I was just a volunteer, not getting paid to do anything. And she said she was this important person. I'm like, okay, I guess and that's what happens. Like when you're confident and have the stronger frame, you're more likely to get what you want. So, but and I wrote about it, and I didn't write about that story in this book, but like, hey, that's a general story from my life about like, hey, this is when I got taken advantage of. I don't know if I can whatever. It's no skin off my. It's like no, there's a big deal now. Look at it, but like, hey, I could recognize like, hey, that's what happened, and I know how to use that in the future to help me out. And that's what this book is about. More you know, more you grow. It's just to give you little strategies so you can make better decisions with your life and just start living a better life so you can be better physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and just live a good life. So if you want to get a copy of this book, it's on Amazon. Just look me up, Joe Bautista, or you can look up the title of the book, More You Know, More You Grow, on Amazon as well. I'm working on something to help me with some other things like to get you the audiobook and for this as well. So that should be coming down the pipeline soon. But hey, hope you enjoyed today's lesson. If you have any questions, you can email me at info@growwithjoe if you have a topic that you would like me to discuss. And yeah, and just take it from there. So hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll be back here maybe tomorrow to talk about another Facebook Live event. Maybe I'll talk about something financial planning related. But yeah, hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And remember, if you go with Joe, you can grow with Joe because Joe knows dough.